Today we are going to look at creating forms in Access. To be able to create a form, you can do that from blank, but most times people go ahead and they create a table first. So to give you an example over here, I've got an example table, the last name, account, dates, and so forth. Or the one that we're going to use for today is the employment table. So first name, last name, date of birth, date started, ID number, and we're going to add an attachment over there. Right, to create a table, a form. Firstly, what is a form? So let's have a look at explanation F. A form is just a more visually appealing and easier way in which to enter data instead of having to work directly within the table. And with forms, you still use your tab to move between your different sections to be able to add the information in. As you can see over there, it's not exactly in order, but you can change that order if you want to. And generally, there are buttons at the bottom that you can make use of to be able to um, work your way through your records, right? So every time you save a form and it gets saved inside of your table that is linked to it, it's called a record. Looking at your form down towards the bottom, you have your records over here, the number of records, and it tells you on which record you are on. So currently we're on record 1 of 12. I can use the buttons on the left hand side to go to my first record. I can go one record back, one to the front, one forward, or to the last record over there. And I can create a new blank record over here. So even if I do not have the save buttons on my form itself, I can still make use of these buttons at the bottom over here. Right, so let's have a look at some other examples of some forms that have been designed. Let's go to the first one. So here's a very basic form with an ID photo on the side over there. And here's a second one over here with some buttons inside there. As you can see, the sizes also differ slightly, and I will explain how to do that as we go through everything. Right, so how do we create a form? Firstly, we have our table that we've created with all of our field names. And we go off and we start off by going to create. For the purposes of this tutorial, we're going to use the form wizard to create our form, and I will also show you at the end the form design. Right, so let's go ahead and let's start with the form wizard. So wait for that. Right, where do we want to get our information from? Which fields do you want on your form? You can choose from more than one table or query. So if I click on the drop down by tables and queries, it should give me, just give it a minute to respond. It will give me a list of all my tables and queries that I have available, which will be this list on the left hand side under my access objects. All right, so for some other reason, my access keeps bombing out when I try to show you the different tables and queries. But generally, if you click on the drop down arrow on the right hand side, you will see the list of your tables and your queries over there. Right, so what information do we want inside of our form? So I can choose them one by one, and I can move them across if I want to. Okay, or let's just put them all back. I can simply click on the double arrows to the right, and it'll take them all across for me over there. So for this instance, I want them all across because I want all the information to go into my table at the top over here. Right, and then click on next. Right, how do we want our form layout to look? Do we want a columnar, tabular, data sheet, or justified? For this, most of the time, you're going to take it as columnar, all right, so that it looks like these other forms that I showed earlier. We're going to go next. What do we want our table to be called? So because my form to be called, because my table is called deliveries, I'm going to call my form deliveries underscore F. Just remember that when you're creating names for your tables, your queries, your forms, and even your fields within Access, it needs to be one word. So the reason why I put the underscore in is to have the space so I can be able to read it easier, but also to keep it as one word. Alternatively, you could always say deliveries F if you want to, like that, if that's going to be easier for you. Or you can put in deliveries form or whatever you'd like to put in at the end. It is not necessary to put that in. You can keep it exactly as just deliveries, and it'll be under your form objects on the left hand side once you've created it. But I like to put an F on the side there so that I can see that it is a form. All right, so now that we've done that, that's all the information the wizard needs to create your form. Do you want to open the form or modify the form's design? So I'm going to say, let's open the form to view and enter the information. I'm not going to choose the modify forms design just yet, as I want to show you what it looks like to start with. So let's click on finish. Give it a moment, and it's busy building my form for me. All right, and there's my form. So this is my front end where I will work on the form. As you can see, it doesn't look the greatest. All right, here's my records at the bottom over here that I can jump between. So I can go 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth. I can go back to the first one or to the last one. Yeah, but this doesn't look very appealing at the moment. So let's go over to our design view and let's start working on this. Before we start changing the layout and the look of the form, I would like to discuss a couple other things over here. So to start off with, you've got your form header. All right, so this is the heading that you'll see at the top. You can go ahead and you can change this information inside here by simply clicking on it and giving it a different name. So let's just call it deliveries. All right, and click outside there. You can go ahead and you can change the color of this. You can change the size by moving your details bar up and down. All right, up and down like that. And you can add a logo in there if you want to as well. But we're not really going to worry about that right now. So that's your form header. Then your detail. This is the main section of your form. As you can see, all the labels and text boxes are inside of here. So these are your labels for your form to tell you what you need to type in over here. And these labels are identical to the labels for the table that it's linked to. As you can see, all those labels over there. To make it a little bit easier to view them all, let's go to this design view over here. All right, so it doesn't want to allow me. I'm going to have to close the form off first, but yes, you can see last name, first name, address, city, and so forth, all the way down to the attachment at the end. Okay, let's go back to our form. If we want more information, like we want a footer and things like that, we have our form footer over here. We also have a additional header that we can put in, a page header and a page footer if we want to. To access that, you would right click and you would select the page header footer option over there. Now I've got a page header over there and I have a page footer over there. All right, and if I want to increase my form footer, I just click at the bottom and drag down. Let me do that again just to show you. So I come to my form footer, bring my cursor down to the bottom there. As my cursor changes, left click and drag down, and I can put in more information into my form footer. But I'm not going to be making use of that at the moment. All right. And I'm going to also remove my page header because I do not need that right now. So I'll right click and I simply click on page header and footer. All righty. On the right hand side of my form, you'll see there's a property sheet. This property sheet will change depending on what I am clicking on. So if I click on my deliveries, there's all the properties for my deliveries label. If I click on my item, that'll change as well. My text box, that will change. And so as I go through the different things, I will have different options available over there. We'll look into those a little bit later on. If I want to make my form a little bit wider so that I have more space, so let's go back to the front. Let's say I want to place things a little bit on to the right hand side over here. Okay, at the moment, I cannot do that because there is no space over there. All I need to do is come to the edge. As my cursor changes, left click on it and drag it across a little bit, and my form will become a little bit bigger over there. All right. Now, when setting up your form so that it looks a little bit better, there are a couple of different ways in which you can modify and change your form. One is that you can click on the labels or this is the label, this is the text box, and on the side you'll see these little handles that you can use to change the size of the box. So you can use that and you can just drag it closer in. Now you'll see at the moment, as I'm doing this, that it's not affecting the positioning of the text boxes for now. So we will look at that a little bit later on. If you want to select multiples to resize them, you'll hold the first, select the first one. So let's go out, select the first one, hold down your control key on your keyboard and start clicking on the others. So let's select all of these because they're all rather big. There we go. And then you can just take any one of them. I'm going to take the first one. As you can see, my cursor is now changed to 2 arrows. And I'm simply going to drag backwards, making sure that I don't go over any of the others, their text, but they're all nicely spaced. And there go, and there we go. Now they've all been changed. You'll see these little blocks at the top over here. Okay, these little blocks affect how your text boxes and your labels are moved around, as you can see over there. So I can use these text boxes to move them closer to my label if I want to. All right, things like that. And I can also adjust by using my arrow keys on my keyboard. So as you can see at the moment, this one is just slightly off center with this one. So I'm going to select the bottom one. I'm going to use the arrow key. And I'm going to just nudge it across slightly like that. And let's maybe move these across just a little bit. And there we go. Now they're nicely in line over there. And I can move this one back a little bit over there. Okay, and let's make this a little bit smaller. For instance, that size over there. One little detail is that every one of these blocks is 1 centimeter, and that is relevant when it comes to the exact positioning of my labels and my text boxes. So if I were to click on a text box, a label for instance, and I come over to my property sheet, if I come down to my third one, I can decide on the size of it. So let's say I want to make this 1 centimeter wide. If I hit tab, okay, then it should change its width to 1 centimeter. Actually, let's go ahead and let's make this 2 centimeters. And there we go. Now you can see that it's 2 centimeters over there. I can choose the height. I'm going to leave it at the default 0.582 because that's the same height for all of these. As you can see, 0.582. And going back to my ID one, I can determine how far from the top it needs to be. So how many centimeters or millimeters from the top. And that takes into consideration I think it's the top of it. Let me just double check over here. If I were to make this 0.5, there we go. Okay, so 0.503 for some other reason has kept it over there. I can also just move it up if I want to and across. Okay, and as you can see over there, it's now at 0.399 for the top. So let's make that 0.4 just to smooth it off nicely. And from the left, Over here, it's just behind the 1 centimeter line. So we're going to make that 1 centimeter over there. Right, and then I can do the same for this over here. I can select my height. So we're going to go with 0.4, so that is in line with that one over there. Okay, and I'm going to select my, no, sorry, not my height. My top is 0.4. My apologies. And from the left, how far from the left do I want it? With the 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's put on 5 centimeters over there. So we got 5 and tab over there. Actually, we can go 4. 4, and there we go. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's at the end of the 4th centimeter over there. All right. So that is how you can use to position them exactly into the place that you want them to be. So let's go have a look at another table that has that already done. I think it's this one over here. All right, there we go. No, not that one. This one over here. Let's go and have a look at the design view over here. So they've all been positioned exactly into specific places over here, as you can see. All right, and including the fact that I've gone and moved my ID photo over from the left hand side to the right hand side, along with the label, along with the text box or the placeholder for the ID photo. So how do I go ahead and move those things? So let's close this one off and come back to my deliveries. Let's just quickly make these a little bit shorter, just so that we can work with them a little bit easier. If I want to move multiple labels or text boxes at a time, oh, I missed those two earlier. Let's make these a little bit shorter as well. There we go. If I want to move multiples at a time, all I need to do is left click outside one, drag across, and go as far down as I need to. And it'll select all of them. And I can move them all to where I want them to be. All right, let's just drag this one over here. No, sorry. Let's just use the arrow keys just to move them all across. All right. Or I could, if we come down a bit, select over the signed delivery and the signed. Select those two. Go over my label. As you can see, my cursor changes to 4 arrows. Left click on that, and you can see there's highlights in both of them. And move it to where I would like it to show. So I'm just going up a little bit, and I would like it here next to my ID over there. All right, so let's go back. Let's save this. Remember to always save your work on a regular basis in forms. And let's go form view over there. So as you can see now, you can see the changes that I've made over there. Going back to this one, you can see that I've made use of my top and my left to modify exactly where it is and get my exact spacing. So there's nicely spaced apart. I can also come in to my labels. I can click with inside my label, and now I can put my spacing in between over there. Just to make it a little bit easier to read in the front end. Like that, and this one over here. There we go. And let's save again. And let's go back to our front view. Okay, so there's now spaces. Even though we've put spaces in over here, okay, the field that is linked to within my table, in this case it's my employment table, it will still be as a single word over there. As you can see over here, ID, first name, last name, DOB, date started, item number, ID photo. It says linked to that over there. Right. So that is basically how you go ahead and you create a form and how you set up its layout, either by selecting, resizing manually, repositioning manually, or making use of the property sheet on the right hand side for more precise placement. Next, I want to look at the labels. All right. So before we even start, not labels, buttons. So before we even start with the buttons, let's delete these. You need to make sure that your use control wizards is activated. So you'll see a little gray box around it. So if I switch it off, you can see that it's not activated at the moment. You switch it on and just have one more look and you can see there's on there. Right, so now I want to create save buttons, previous record, next record, first record, last record, similar to what my view will be in the front. So let's just save this so I can go to the front so that I don't have to use these controls at the bottom over here. Let's go back to my design view and let's add in our first buttons. Now, where do I find the buttons? It's under my form design tab, under my controls group over here. Okay, so I have my label, my text boxes. I can add in extra text boxes if I want to. So I can maybe use descriptions. So I could maybe add a text box in over here. Just click and drag it in. Okay, can't make it very big because I've got my ID photo over there. Actually, let's just put it at the bottom over here. Let's delete the label. Don't need the label. We just want the text box. So you can just hit your delete button after clicking on the label. Let's make it a little bit bigger. And let's type in something like type in ID without spaces. All right, let's save that. Let's go have a look at the front. And wait, that's giving me a problem over there. Okay, let's see what my error is. So invalid control, error control source. All right. Some other reason it's not wanting to work with me at the moment. So I'll have a look at that just now. We'll come back to that. So let's delete that for now. But yes, I have my text boxes. I have labels. So these are the labels over here. Sorry, yeah. I was supposed to use a label, not a text box. Label. Let's add that in and say type in ID without spaces. Okay, again, let's go and save. This is why saving and double checking on a regular basis is so important. There we go. So remember, labels, not text boxes. If you want to add in something that you just want to maybe like leave a comment or give an instruction or something, then you'll make use of your labels. And to edit your labels, simply click on your label, come to your home tab, and you can edit as you would within like a Word document or anything like that. And let's make it black, and there we go. And then obviously you can position it either by dragging it around or making use of your controls on the left hand side. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that over there. And let's make that a little bit smaller. And let's save again. All right. Now let's go back to form design. After the labels and the text boxes, we have our button. All right, so let's click on the first button, making sure that we have our controls activated. And I'm just going to drag across like that. Immediately, it's going to bring up a command button wizard. And I have to choose which command I want. So I have different categories. I have record navigation, record operators, form operations, report operations, application, and miscellaneous. So let's have a look at each one. Under record navigation, I have find next, find record, go to first, go to last, go to next, go to previous. Record operations, I have add new record, delete record, duplicate record, print, save, and undo. Now, if you have created this database for somebody else to work on, and all you want them to do is enter and save, you would not go and give them the option to delete. All right, so that they can't go and delete your entries inside of your table. As I've mentioned in other videos, once a record has been deleted from a table, there is no way to get it back. Let's have a look at our form operations. We have apply form filter, close, open, print a form, print current form, refresh form data. Report operations, mail report, open report, preview report, print report, send report to file. Application, we have quit application. So you can have that um, so that when they're done at the end of the day, they can click on quit application and it will close the entire Access application down. And then we have miscellaneous, auto dialer, print table, run macro, run query. Right. The ones that we're going to be using today is the record navigation category and the record operations category. So first we want to do is we want to have a save button. So I'm going to click on save record, go to next. I'm going to select text because I want it to have text inside the box, and I'm going to give it a name. So I'm just going to say save. And you can see on the left hand side there is a sample of what your button will look like. Once I've put that in, I'm going to go next. What do you want to name the button? A meaningful name will help to refer to the button later. All right, so I'm going to call this button Save BT, BTN. All right, so I know it's my save button. I can also type in button completely there if I want to. And this is just an abbreviated version. And let's say finish. And there we go. Now it's been changed to save. Now I'm not going to resize it. I'm not going to move it at the moment. I want to add in a couple more first. So I'm going to go back up to button. Wait for the dialog box. Click on button. Draw my button. Right. What I want now. I want a next record. So let's have a look over here. So find next over there. No, let's go to next. Go to next record. Let's go to that one. Select next. Again, I'm going to take text. I'm going to get rid of record. I'm just going to say next. Go next. Give it a name. Again, I'm going to call this one next BTN. All right, because it's the same name as the text on my button. So it makes it easier for me to reference it and say finish. As you can see, it's busy resizing that the whole time over there. So, but that's fine. Let's just move this one up a little bit over here for now. Let's put one more in for previous. Okay, and restore our button. Don't worry too much about the size. As you can see, it'll resize. Let's go to previous record. Next. You can select the text. Get rid of the record part. Go next. And I'm going to call this one previous BTN and finish. All right. Now I've got them all together over here. Let's say I want to start spacing these buttons out. Okay. So I can make use of moving them around manually if I want to. So I put that one over there, and I put this one over here, and let's put this one over here if I want to, for instance. Okay. Or I can click on a button. Again, I can come to my property sheet on the left hand side. I can choose my width. So let's say I want this one to be 2 centimeters. Okay. How far from the top do I want it? I want it, let's see, was it 6.23? Let's have a look over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.23. Do I want it on that top line? Yes, let's put it on the top line. So I'm going to make that 6. And it's going to move up a bit. How far from the left do I want it? I want it 2 centimeters across. So I'm going to change my property to 2 centimeters. Okay, so small you didn't actually even see it move. Let's do the same with this one over here. Actually, let's just move this one across a little bit just to give it some more space. And let's change this one again. Let's make it the same size, 2 centimeters. Right. Where do I want it? I want it on that top line over there, on the 6. I'm going to change that to 6. And how far from the left do I want it? I want it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's go on 5 centimeters over there. And our last one, let's change that one as well. So my width, Let's keep it nice and uniformal. 2 centimeters. From the top, I want it 6. Now you'll see that I'm not changing the height because I want it to stay at 0.714 for the time being. And from the left, let's go and put it over here. So that would be my eighth one, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. So let's go to 8 over there. All right. So now you can see that they're all nicely in line over there, all nicely spaced out. They're all the same size. If we go down, we can choose our colors over here. So we got our back colors for our buttons. So let's make it a nice blue color over there. Let's make this one a red color over there. And let's make our save button a green color, just so we can distinguish between them nicely over there. Come on. There we go. Again, I can also come and I can go look for my text and I can go and change my text. I can change the type of font that's been used, the size of the font, the alignment of the font, my font weight, my fore color, um, and there's a lot more that I can do over here. So my advice would be to work through your properties on your properties sheet for your different elements, be it a label, a text box, or a command button. Okay, take some time and work through this over here. And as you can see, my previous button, all right, if I click on it, it comes up and it gives me the name over there, previous BTN. Same if I click on save and I click on next. I can do exactly the same for my labels. So that's at the moment called an ID label, first name label. That's my ID text box, my first name text box. If you want to, you can go and you can change that name if you want. I would not do that generally with the ID, with the labels and the text boxes. I think we would rather keep that to our buttons and renaming those over there. Right, then moving along, we can add in other things such as a combo box onto our form. What else would we generally use? Toggle buttons sometimes, a list box. I can also take some of my information, I can change it to that. I've got a standard rectangle that I can use. I can add in checkboxes if I want. I can add in images or an unbound object frame. I can add in attachments. I can add in a radio button or an option button, depending on how you want to refer to it. Subform, sub reports, don't worry about that. Don't worry about a bound object. Image, yes. Images, there's something I would like to show you about that. Images, we can put images within our form, such as a logo or an image on the side, or we can put images in the background. To be able to do that, under the form design tab, still under the controls, you'll see next to your controls is an insert image. All right, so I've previously used cute kittens, so I'm just going to say insert cute kittens. Right, sorry, that was still on my button over there. Let's just click away from the button. Let's use cute kittens and let's draw the cute kittens in over there. All right, and now it has its own set of commands and properties that I can use to adjust it. And again, I can just use the spaces on the sides over here, and I can move it around within my form. All right, so let's go ahead and let's save, and let's view it. So long. And that's what my form currently looks like. Let's go back to my backend. All right. If you're done with your form and you don't need all that extra space, you can bring it in a little bit. Let's say over there. Then you know you're only working in that space. And let's save that. and it shouldn't make too much of a difference to the front. It'll still carry on all the way to the end there, but you know your back end that stops over there. Let's talk about changing the background color of your form. So with my employment F2 form over here, firstly I'm going to change that to just employment, and I'm going to quickly drag down my details just a little bit just so I can see this box a little bit better. And I'm going to bring my cursor over to get my two arrows so I can adjust the label that it's in, make it a little bit smaller so that I can move my detail up a little bit more. So there's taking up less space at the top over there. So let's save and check the front again. Okay, so that's a little bit smaller. Fantastic. Right, so let's talk about changing colors. So I've clicked outside of that within my form header, and now I can go and look for my back color over here, and I can go and choose a different color if I want to. I'm going to make that a lighter gray over there, and with my detail, just clicking anywhere on a blank space within the detail section. Okay, I can choose my back color. At the moment, it's got a hexadecimal code inside there for white. I can always come in here. I can choose another color, or if I happen to know the hexadecimal color, I can go put it inside there. And let's make this a slightly darker gray. So we're going to go make it a little bit more gray than that one over there. Again, let's save and let's view. And now you can see the difference over there. Just want to show you again with the employment why I pulled that up. Okay, if I bring my detail down, it makes my form header bigger. And I just want to show you the difference there quickly. Now I've got all that extra space over there. So that is why I made my label slightly smaller so that I could bring my detail section up more. You'll also notice that even if I bring it up to here, it'll only go as far as the bottom of the label so that it does not cover over the rest of the text. Moving on to your labels and your text boxes, you can also choose whether or not to have borders around those. So if I were to select multiples over here, let's say all of those, and I were to come to my let me just double check form design, no, my format. Yeah, we go. Under my format, my shape outline, and I could say transparent if I want to, but I want to have my border showing. It's still going to show in the back, but it won't show in the front. Again, let's say that, and let's go back and view it. And now I don't see any borders over there. If I really wanted to have a border around it, again, I would just come to my format and select my labels, and I will go and choose a color for that. Save one more time, and let's view it. And now I've got that around. Now you'll see that I've chosen black, but it's still coming in as a light gray. It doesn't bring it up exactly as black. And the same will apply for my text boxes. I can also go ahead and I can change the color inside of my text boxes if I want to. Let's select all of them at once. And let's go to the side here, to my properties. And I will look for my back color over there. And let's make that a dark gray, for instance, over there. If I look into the front again, just save, just to make sure there's no problems. And there we go. That's a dark gray. All right, and that is basically your forms. I still wanted to show you the background. If I wanted to put a background image in to my form over here, that would be under, sorry, I'm just trying to remember over here. Where is my image? No. Okay. Where's my alternate back color special? Okay, I'm not seeing my image here at the moment for my background, but I will do another little video on that. All right, but that's basically how you insert things over here. You'll also notice that my ID photo label is smaller than my ID photo. That's because I simply selected the text box or the placeholder and I dragged to make it bigger or smaller. All right. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I hope this helps you with designing your forms. There is one other way in which I wanted to show you how to create a form. Before I forget, let me just close off all of these, right? And then just go to create, and you can go to form design over here. If you want access to automatically just set up your layout for you, you can click on the form design. Sorry. Firstly, you need to select your table that you want to have the form created from. Then go to create and click on form design. Um, is it this one that works that way? No, it's not. It was, sorry, my apologies. Go to form and there we go. Just click on form and it will automatically create it for you. The only problem with this is that it's a little bit more difficult to move your things around. So if I come into my backend, okay, now start resizing. As you can see, it just resizes everything because they're all locked together. So that is not the best option. When it comes to creating a form, it is better to select your table, come up to create, and go to your form wizard over there. I just wanted to show you the difference between those two. This form design is to create a blank form. All right, hope this has helped you. Please let me know if you have any questions.